Okay. So we will dive. Okay. So we will dive then into form standards. Oh, I can't even see that. I have to look at your. Dive into form standards. This is going to be probably the meatiest part of conversation, and this really sets up the form-based code and how everything else flows from that. So this was provided in your meeting packet there, and first we will, no, go ahead. We want to define net lot area because it's important for this conversation, and it differs a little bit from the current zoning. Usually when we are looking at our current zoning, you're looking at a lot period. So that's the full size of whatever the lot is. With form-based code, we use net lot area. And net lot area excludes land that is a right-of-way, easements, wetlands, and water bodies from that net lot area. That will play an important role when we start talking about lot coverage, which is next. So you'll see on the current ordinance, the red represents the size of an existing lot. And then our current lot coverage is 75% or 40%. You can see that representation there. I will say it's not exact. We did as best we could to show that representation. Under form-based code, you have the addition of what's called the net lot area, as we discussed. So when we're talking about lot coverages, the lot coverages are based off of net lot area and not the entirety of the lot. So when you start seeing some larger numbers in these recommendations, such as 90% and 70%, that's based off of net lot area and not the entire lot.
Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So this pertains to each individual lot within a development?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted
Yep.
to clarify that, not the total development as a lot.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So then this just kind of gives the overall lot coverage for the different densities. We have the mixed core, which is the more dense area, mixed neighborhood, which is a little less dense, and then we have the special districts that were identified when we went over uses. As you can see, there was really no difference between staff and PC's recommendations there, except for the mixed family and non-residential in mixed core. Staff had recommended 95, and that was based off of DPZ's recommendation, and PC has recommended 90% there. So mixed core, single family, we're recommending 75%, and the mixed family, non-residential, 90%. Mixed neighborhood, 70%. Mixed family, non-residential, 85%. So this is where we begin getting council's feedback on those densities.
Okay, well.
I'm sorry, one thing I would flag too with the special districts, because their underlying district was mixed core, that's your 90%. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
And actually,
So the more dense.
we have more slides to show.
Sure.
I was jumping the gun
Okay.
on that. We'll go into more detail and some visual representations about those lot coverages in the next few slides.
So if we can stop here, does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Okay.
So throughout the next few slides, as we talk about lot coverage of the different areas, you'll see images similar to this on those slides. So there's a lot key there to help you understand what the colors represent as you see these images. The lot coverage buildable area is represented by the pink. The yard area, which is what's remaining, is blue, and then the setback area is that lighter purple. Any questions on what you're visualizing here so that you understand them as we move into the other slides?
I have a question. So are we going to talk about the difference between the staff and the BC recommendation, or right now we're just listening to you?
Right now, probably just listen as we
Okay.
move through. Then there may be
Yeah.
discussion as to whether
Got it.
you want to consider those differences in recommendation. I
So
will
we're not
note-
going to debate those tonight? We're not
We
going
are.
to settle
We
on?
will, but we're
We
going
are.
to go
Yeah,
through
you
sort
can.
of an overview, and then we'll come back and we'll come back to these.
Right now, we're
and-
going to listen.
I think so.
The other important thing to
We'll wait for
note
questions.
That's what I asked.
when you're using these visuals is just because you're seeing a block of lot coverage somewhere on that lot does not mean that's what it would actually look like if
Right.
something's built. So you may have a garage that's separate from a house structure. So obviously your lot coverage will be dispersed amongst that lot and not solid there. I know that was something that we had to go through with PC, so I just wanted to make sure that we're all visualizing the same way. Building placement, we will talk a lot about front yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, side yard setbacks. So this is just showing you the kind of placement of a building on a lot based off of those type of setbacks. I think everybody's probably familiar with those, and they're pretty self-explanatory. So we will get into mixed core minimums for single-family regulations in the mixed core. We will go over lot widths, setbacks, and coverage of each of these different areas. So the first one being the minimum for single-family regulations. The minimum lot recommended by PC is 20 feet. Staff had originally recommended 16 feet. That came from DPZ's recommendation as well, was 16 feet. So you'll see that difference on there. The front yard setbacks of 6 feet, minimum side yard setbacks of 0 or 5, minimum rear yard setback of 6 feet. The side yard setbacks of 0 and 5, you can only have a 0 yard setback if you are the property owner of the adjoining property. If you are not, you have to have a minimum 5 yard setback on both of those adjoining properties, on both of those properties to ensure that there's proper fire access and access in between those buildings. Then down below, it's showing the lot coverage percentages as visualizations. We give examples all the way down to 45%. So the recommendation is 75. We're showing you what that would look like, and then other percentages as well.
And this is mixed core,
Mixed core, the
Single-family
minimums for single family.
single family, so the first column.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just bear in mind, this is the most dense section that you'll see.
So then we move on to the maximums for that same use, the single-family regulations. The maximum lot width for this single-family use is 48 feet. That was agreed upon between staff and PC. Maximum front yard setback of 12 feet. There are no maximum setbacks for side or rear. And then again, at the bottom, you can see a visualization of what that lot coverage looks like at 75%, and then descending to 45%. Do we want to?
I have a question. Why does the visualization for 65% look bigger than the 75%? Is it because they're wider, there's fewer lots in the 75% coverage?
That's a good question, Adam. Honestly, I
I
don't
think
know
it
the answer.
is. I think you've got 1, 2,
What about the
3, 4,
area?
5 versus 4.
Yeah.
Okay, that must be it. Sorry, never
No,
mind.
you're good.
So this is what you have in your packet there for lot standards for single family. This is just showing you that in the chart so you can see it all together. The minimums and maximums and the setbacks. So this would be
This is a
good
good time
discussion
for us, I think if we go through each column,
Yeah.
we'll know best by the time we get to the fourth column what we're doing, so. All right, so why don't we start, do you have any questions, Eric?
No?
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these columns and look at the different options that we have and discuss.
Now.
Yes? Okay,
But I mean, because we've seen all of this before in the work session, okay.
Gretchen, do you have any questions or comments?
Was it my turn?
I'm sorry, I thought you said no. I thought you said no. Go ahead, go ahead.
All right, we're talking about the far left column?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Single-family residential in the mixed core.
All right. You answered my first question, which was, in cases where the PC and staff differed, what did the consultant recommend? And if so, if it was different, why was it different? We got the answer to that on the 16 versus 20 at the work session. Density, affordable housing options. My opinion hasn't changed from the work session. If that's what you're asking. I don't have any questions. I fully understand the difference, and I favor the 16-foot minimum for all the reasons we talked about at the work session. I mean, I know there was a fear with Planning Commission didn't want to see row houses. I'm okay with row houses. I'm perfectly fine with them. In fact, I'd love to see them. That's the only, because that's the only place in that column that it really differed, right? Other than rear alley, but there was no apparent difference between staff and,
Yeah, those stayed consistent all the way through.
that's my comment.
Thank you.
This is just column 1, right? Ditto.
Ditto.
Same.
Ditto,
So
16.
16 minimum.
16.
Yep.
All right, so we will move on then to the mixed family and non-residential part of mixed core. The minimum lot width, again, from PC's recommendation was 20 feet, staff's was 16 feet. Front yard setback for this, am I in the right?
No, yeah, you're fine, it's just there's a typo.
Oh, sorry. Minimum front yard setback is 0. For this, the idea again is to bring it to the front of the lot. Minimum side yard setback again is 0 and 5 as discussed previously. And then I have a typo, it should say minimum rear yard setback of 6 feet, which is consistent with what we've been discussing. And then again down below showing you lot coverage percentages. For this one, staff had recommended 95%. That was based off of the consultant's recommendation. And PC has recommended 90%. And again, just a reminder that we're talking about lot net coverage, buildable area within net lot coverage. So that is the minimum for the mixed multifamily non-residential. Then we have the maximums. The maximum lot width would be 250 feet. Again, we're talking mixed family, so apartment buildings or large commercial, industrial, mixed-use facilities. Maximum front yard setback of 4 feet, and again, no side yard or rear yard maximums. And then showing the densities again below. So this is the second column, and we welcome council's discussion.
So there are some differences, yes, between staff and PC?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Even
there
few
were
more
a few
differences. There are a few-
setbacks that were
yeah.
different. from-
Yeah, and the lot coverage is different as well. So, Gretchen, you want to take a stab at this one?
I first have a question, going back to my first question when you were still presenting, just because I need that from my lens. So, I mean, the slide before this, you had the numbers, the, minimum, maximum, lot width, whatever. So, again, those are the same for both permitted by right and conditional use?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I'm confused.
So,
Because when I was preparing for the meeting, everything I read said that conditional use is larger breweries, larger entertainment recreation, large events, larger outdoor in comparison with permitted right, but yet we have the same measurements for both?
If you get into conditional use, right now, I see where your question's at. So right now, we're just dealing with permitted use by right. So if you get
Oh, we're
into
not talking
conditional
about
use,
condition.
I think you have the flexibility to make some changes to mins maxes. So, yeah, I'm
So that's
following you.
not for both.
This is think of this as just as permitted use by right at the moment.
Got it. That's super helpful.
Mike, it's fair to say that we do have the right, not we may have the right, we do have the right, assuming it's a reasonable request under conditional use.
Go ahead.
Is that accurate? I'm asking. It depends on whether it's reasonable or not, right?
I don't think a whole lot of the conditional use has to do with the actual lot
Right.
size, coverage.
But it
I
is
think
fair
that-
game, should you deem that to be something you'd want to change under conditional use.
Question.
Let us circle back to you on that one.
Okay.
Eric.
That was a question, I'm
Yeah,
not saying it is.
We
I
may,
think it's
be-
fair. I think you can, but I'm not 100% sure.
we may begin to touch on that topic once we start to talk about
Special districts.
the uses.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Right.
think it may become a little more in focus, and we're gonna be able to circle back to that and have a good discussion about it.
Yeah, no, I think
Sorry,
that's a good point.
wanted to-
Yeah, I'm just
related.
confused by the sequence of how we're talking about these, because, like, what I found, use permitted by right for everyday low-impact uses that create regular reasons to walk, bike, linger, and see other people. Conditional use is what's used sparingly for larger or potentially impactful uses with clear measurable conditions, not subjective judgment. So wouldn't you kind of have to have, I mean, even looking at coverage, you know, it'd be different, at least, you know, when I picture those different things that I was just, you know, reading, like even the lot coverage might be different, you know, what we would want it maybe, I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah.
Different depending on whether it's like a big, large event venue that's very rarely used versus a bicycle shop that people go in and out of all the time that's right above affordable housing. So anyway, I'm just I'm
So-
just trying to
I
understand.
think,
Yeah.
I think for me, understanding this is we're starting from the ground up. That the uses and how we define that and make decisions will come after we get that, just the lot structure. We're trying to figure out what size lots.
Yeah, no, I
So,
understand
yeah,
that, but my
yeah.
question is, do we not need to take that into account, whether it's something rarely used or used every day, in deciding the coverage of the lot? That's, I guess, my basic question.
It's a very kind of backwards way from the way we have always thought about zoning, the way it's traditionally with the Euclidean.
Right, and I've never
So
really thought about zoning.
The short answer is no, the use doesn't matter as
Right.
much in these decisions. We're looking at the form. What do we want that area to look like?
So that's why we're doing it in this sequence.
Yeah, and so then the uses come, but they're supposed to be less meaningful in terms of
Right.
of how they're laid out. So
Okay, then I'll
we
stop
want-
thinking about it.
Yeah, so we want
Done.
density.
For now.
Yeah.
Done.
We want more lot coverage
Yep.
for the purpose of getting some more housing and mixed
Yep,
use.
I'll
and
just
stuff
block
in
out
there.
that question.
It
and-
comes up all the time,
and move
so
on.
it's very natural part of
No, I'm good now,
of
I
the
get it.
discussion.
I mean, I knew everything you just said, but to me, it
Yeah.
didn't matter whether you use it every day or you use it, you know,
Yeah.
3 times a year, but I guess it doesn't. So, question answered.
So
I think
back
there's
to
a-
the
There's a
issues.
procedural piece in there that we do need to regroup on, but yeah, for the purposes of right now, I
Yep.
think about it as those use
Yep.
by rights.
Yep.
So coming back to the column, there's some differences
Yeah.
between staff.
And I
and
guess I'm
PC.
just wondering, have we already heard about why those, because I missed the last meeting because I was in Wisconsin. Have we already heard the reasons why they're different? Because if we have, I shouldn't go first.
I really don't recall why the differences are all very subtle. I think this was just opinion from planning commission, and I don't know that there were actual reasons. I know with some of these minimum 16-foot lot, I know I recall some conversation, well, if you have a 5-foot setback on each side, you're gonna have a 6-foot wide building to put someone in unless you own a multitude of lots.
Row houses.
Yes, and I think that was, part of the discussion. They wanted to broaden that a little bit more so you could build a more reasonable if you did not own the adjoining lots.
Yeah, but I think you're talking more, we've got some setbacks that are different on here. And then the maximum lot length is different between the two, but very minimal. I don't think there was a whole lot of reason or back and forth between those. I think it was just,
And I think when
A
you look
number.
at them, it's about density again.
yeah.
It's the same principle, Eric, you just spoke about in the first column, that we're looking at how to incorporate more density.
So staff's recommendation on this would lead to more
More
density, and PC would lead to less density. So I would support staff recommendation on this one.
Rich?
Yes, I support the 16, and just, this is an opportunity for more density. A developer doesn't have to make it 16, they can make it 20. If they think it's more marketable as 20, that's what they're gonna do. But if they can find a creative way to utilize with 16, then that's what they're gonna do, and everything. Could I have one question on, we keep coming to talk about the side setback 0 or 5, and if you own the adjoining property, it can be 0. Does that mean you can never sell the adjoining property?
No. No, once the building.
So it's just the initial.
The initial construction.
Okay, you can't have a neighbor and then say, hey, I'm right next door. Okay, all right, very good. Just wanted to confirm that, thank you. And similar, if you wanted me to keep going, I go with the 240. Again, they may look at it and it divides up into 250 easier. They have the opportunity at 240, same with the 95% versus 90%.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
I agree. But could I ask a question? It seems as though the blue is consistent, staff blue is consistent in the second column as it was in the first column, except for height. Is there a reason why staff preferred fewer stories? Because
Context, community context was the biggest
Okay,
thing.
so
You know,
here's
to
where
show
we
some
shift from density
differentiation
to-
between, that was really the difference. And, a lot of the staff recommendations you'll see are tied back to what DPZ recommended for this district in particular.
Okay, so in this case, DPZ recommended
A
5.
little less, yeah.
For context.
Right.
Even though most of their other recommendations had to do with density.
Yeah.
Here they favored context over density.
And I think some of that had, like you said, with the character, the view, just the area that it's in was
It's one
preserving some
story.
of that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not-
this was a subject of significant debate
Yes.
at Planning Commission.
And
I
at the
mean,
joint meeting.
Yeah, I mean.
And it
because
ranged
you-
anywhere
Yeah.
from, we should be able to go 12 to 2, it was quite
Yeah,
a long process through.
We
And
will,
we'll get to.
yeah, we'll get to height,
to height.
Okay.
We kind of carved that off because it was such an area of debate, so.
Okay, so we are done then so far with the mixed core in terms of lot standards. We'll move into mixed neighborhood, remembering that this is slightly less dense than the mixed core, so the numbers will be a little bit different. We'll start with single-family residential. Minimum lot width from PC's recommendation is 20 feet, again, staff 16. Minimum front yard setback of 8 feet. Minimum side yard, again, the 0 or 5, and the minimum rear setback of 6. This time, the lot coverage would be 70% minimum, or 70%, that is the lot coverage maximum, I'm sorry, for a single-family residential. And you can see those densities down below.
And again, a lot of this was context. As you see, we're moving out of a very dense core location into more of a neighborhood space, so you're expecting a little bit more kind of air between the buildings and those kind of things. So.
Okay. And then we have the maximums for single-family residential in the mixed neighborhood. The maximum lot width of 60 feet, maximum front yard setback of 18 feet, and no maximums for side and rear setbacks. And then you, again, the lot coverage there.
Okay. Thoughts, Rich?
It appears you agree on the max with PC at 60, so it comes again to the minimum. I'm okay with the 16-foot here again. I think probably a developer is going to move it towards the 20, but I don't think we have to dictate that.
Was the reasoning the same? Yeah, I'm cool with the 16.
And you'll see in general throughout this that PC just was not comfortable with 16, so they were comfortable with 20, so that was what they set at their threshold.
Okay.
Yeah, the 16, but I would add that I'm not at all concerned about the 0 setback only if you own both lots, because I see just the opposite. I see with a 16-foot minimum, more likely developers to build a string of row houses. You know, it's no different than single-family home development. You know, infrastructure's expensive, you want to get the most units in. So I'm not yeah, if one person wants to buy one lot with the minimum 16, that's tough with the setback. But I don't see that as the market.
And that's the idea. Leave the flexibility here for the developers.
Yeah.
It's not something we need to be dictating.
So, yeah, so I like the 16 for the same reasons. And I see the shift now as we move into this column between the staff and the PC, but I support the staff recommendation.
I do too, but I'm just curious. So, I mean, the theme seems to be that Planning Commission doesn't want as dense as staff is recommending. Why do they?
I'm actually not sure that it had to do with density.
Oh,
It
that's
had
not
more
the
to do
case?
with they kept saying the developer won't want to develop that small. So that was really their
But
justification.
if they don't have to,
Right.
like Rich pointed out, then what's the problem?
They have the flexibility if they
Yeah.
want more. Yeah.
So why?
Yeah, they were just there were several individuals on Planning Commission that drove a lot of that conversation. And were very adamant about what developers will do and won't do. And so at the end of the day, those arguments or those positions kind of held sway in terms of their ultimate recommendations. I couldn't agree more with, this is intended to provide the flexibility, and as long as the flexibility is in there, let the market figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's really where staff and DPZ are really coming from, because the objective of this zoning district, form-based code district, is to create more density, to create a different visual than what we have, and promote more utilization of the property that's involved. So I think it was as simple as that, to be honest, a lot of planning commissions. But I will say, there was, in my opinion, there certainly was a predisposition to less density where they could see their way to that. So a lot of the planning commission recommendations were, maybe not all of them, but a number of them were real compromises between those two. Not as much density and a lot less density, or a lot more density.
I have a question.
Well, can I just respond to that?
Yes, of course.
I think that is awesome, because that is democracy at work. And so it sounds like, I mean, a one-line answer to my question, to summarize kind of what you said, Adam, is it was part of the process.
Yep.
The process worked, and now we have this as a result. So I just wanted to point that out, like, this is democracy at work, and this is what it looks like, and it looks really good. Okay, I'm done.
I had a question on single-family residential, the rear setback. There's a big
That's what we were
difference.
just
We were just
debating.
talking
I
about
heard you
that.
guys going, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, they're reading my mind.
Yeah.
We're not exactly sure.
think
It
that
may
might-
be a typo.
Is that a
Might just
typo,
be a
like
typo.
somebody hit 2 and 4 at the same
Yeah.
time and not 3?
Yeah, we
Okay.
think that may just be a typo.
Because the other ones show 3.
I was thinking,
for
is
the
there a
other.
rear dwelling? Because we're talking now about
Yeah,
accessory.
apologize for
dwellings.
that.
I thought it
think
was
that's a
24-inch minimum.
Yeah, okay, so we'll take that and we think that that's a 3?
3.
Okay, all right, that's the only question I had. No, other than that, I agree with staff recommendation.
So it's either 2 or 4 minimum.
I
Or
think-
3.
I think it's
I-
3.
I think it's
You
Because
think
the
it's
other
3?
ones show.
I assumed it meant, I thought it was 24-inch, which would be 2 feet.
No, I think, I took it, at first, I really wanted to know genuinely, was there something, because it says principal building, and I didn't know, but then it occurred to me, it looks like it's 2, 4,
Yeah.
We believe that's.
because everything else is 3.
Yeah, we
Everything else
believe
is
that could
3.
be a typo.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
Even if it's not a typo, I'm going to vote 3.
3,
Perfect.
clarify 3.
All right. So then we will move on to mixed family and non-residential in the mixed neighborhood. This has a minimum lot width of 20 feet. Again, staff's recommendation was 60 feet minimum. Front yard setbacks of 0. Again, bringing everything to closer to the road. Minimum side yard setback 0.5, minimum rear setback 6 feet. The lot coverage for this is 85%. Again, the visual up there is showing you those different percentages. The maximum lot width is 150. That was both staff and PC's recommendation. Maximum front yard setback of 8 feet, no maximums for side and rear.
Yep. I'm just, I mean, was there a different answer for this one? Because that's a big difference between 60 and 20.
I think it came down to the use for that, so I think there was just some,
Yeah, and honestly, I believe the 60 came out of DPZ and they were thinking of apartment buildings,
Right.
Gotcha.
as opposed to row house type development. This is one of those instances where I think the PC probably hit it right, because it doesn't move us away from or preclude that type of development, as opposed to sticking with the DPZ standard.
Okay.
Well, the only thing that I would say to that is that we're in the mixed neighborhood, you have a single-family residential, and you want to differentiate the multifamily and non-residential from that. And so I don't know that it's inappropriate to identify a different number. In fact, I don't know that I would identify the same number.
Right.
But I don't know if 60 is the right number. DPZ suggested that. But I don't think that it should be 20, in my opinion, simply because of what that is. And there is a distinction that's being drawn. That is intended to be different than single family. So I think we need a different number other than 20, but beyond that, I don't know what that is. So can we put into some mental context what, we know what an apartment building looks like, but what does, in this particular context, in this zone, in a mixed neighborhood zone, what would the non-residential use look like? Would it be a coffee shop? Would it be,
Yes.
okay, so yes, it could be any of those things with,
Residential.
Light industrial?
would it be light industrial
Yeah, I
as
mean,
well?
Light industrial is in there too.
Non-residential.
and some of that is still the mixed use of the building. So it can be apartment buildings, but it could also be the coffee shop with the
First,
apartments
yeah,
above.
first floor and second.
Yeah, it's just you'll see the height is a little less in that, which plays an impact on that. So I think that's where you see some
Well,
of the
to get
differences.
again, my opinion is to get the benefit of form-based code and the potential for that commercial and the possibility of a light industrial or something like that, you're going to need to have a number that is not identical to the single-family component in this district.
Because otherwise you may end up with all single family
Right.
and there's nothing.
Right, and yeah, as you're working through it, I'm following, so, yeah.
Yeah, so, right or wrong, I use the 16 as a multiplier. So 3 row houses is 48, 4 is 64. You know, so is that what that potentially looks like,
Right.
kind of thing? And then the question really can come down, you could come back to the mixed core, multifamily and non-residential. Does that need to be, you know, broke down? Again, for the same argument that you just made, in that we have single-family residential in that mixed neighborhood, we have single-family residential in the mixed core.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the DPZ recommended in the mixed core for the multifamily and non-residential. I think these are the numbers that DPZ recommended.
60 and 150.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, I think you're.
wait a minute.
He
16
means in the
240.
mixed core.
Yeah,
16 and 240.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, okay. So those are DPZ's numbers, okay? But DPZ's numbers in the mixed neighborhood, the less dense areas, DPZ and staff were suggesting the 60-foot versus what PC recommended at 20. I definitely think it needs to be 60 or closer to 60 than 20 to keep that
Consistent.
continuity as much as anything else between these various districts.
And I think the 16 feet in the mixed core, multifamily non-residential is something similar to a downtown. So like downtown State College, you've got the smaller buildings that are all lined up there that aren't necessarily single-family homes. They've got the shops on the bottom, the apartments up top, those type of things. So you do want to allow for the smaller lot sizes within that mixed core. It just doesn't play out the same in the mixed neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Because
to
you don't
be,
want a downtown.
yeah, I mean, to
mixed
be
neighborhood.
honest, the chances of a light industrial in the mixed core, while it could happen, are pretty slim. I mean, if you
You may have
think
some
about.
small tech.
Yeah, well, it had
Yeah.
storefront type operations, maybe. But if you have anything that's, you know, on scale or at scale, that would be more akin to be located in the less dense mixed neighborhood area. So I just think that, I'm arguing against PC's recommendation of 20. I don't think that's, I think that's too identical to your other, your other requirements for single family.
Mitch, what were you thinking again?
I was using the 16 as a base
Right.
because we're all in blocks and all that good stuff. So 3 16-foot blocks is 48,
48.
4 is 64. Just easy numbers.
So is that a suggestion for 64 minimum? I don't follow.
48 or 64 as
Okay.
possible, or something in between, or something, but just giving perspective.
No, I like that approach.
Gretchen?
I like the approach too.
I would like to know more about the reason for the single story for principal use staff recommendation. Did we already cover that and I missed it?
No, we
No.
haven't done any of the high,
We corrected that in the presentation.
It's supposed to be 4.
It's supposed to be 4.
Yeah, there was a
Okay.
typo.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so once we get to height in the presentation, you'll see the number
Staff
on
would be
there.
four. Okay, so that's
It will
4.
be 4, yeah.
That's a good question. So it sounds like we're in favor of changing that The question is, do we do 48, do we do 64?
I
Is
had
there-
mentioned 40, but nobody heard me.
40? Okay.
Yeah. I don't think anybody heard me though, before he said it.
Okay.
Yeah. He did.
We hear you now.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I do think, I think we've got a couple of options here, so let's sort through them. Rich, what you're proposing is a multiplier on 16. Tracy, it looks like you're proposing something that
Something in
is in line with what the PC recommendation is. I would go around and ask for consensus on that.
So are you saying stick with 20, or? thought
No,
you
I said 40.
40.
Yeah, like in between.
So,
2 PCs, 2 times PC.
Yeah.
Two-time PC, and he's
And I like that one too.
he's 2 or 4 times, or 4
3 or
times
4,
or 5, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, 40 has the benefit of being exactly in between.
Yeah.
But Rich's logic is pretty sound too, so I could go with either 40 or 48, because they both are supported by some really thin logic.
Better than none.
and I guess the question I would have, because I don't translate well from written to visual, that's an impairment I have. If we're going with a multiple of 16, we're in the mixed neighborhood, so we're already at 16 feet on the residential. So this becomes a multiplier of 16. Does that preserve character? I mean, I take your point about the split between 60 and 20, but does it sort of preserve that context and character at a multiplier of 16?
Yeah, I guess, I'm going to go back and counter my earlier statement. So, an argument for a multiplier of the 16 is, we're talking multifamily at this
Right.
point. So if you do 2 of the minimums side by side, you're talking about a duplex. 3, you're talking about a triplex. Now, they're in, multiple families, one single owner, but multiple families living in. It's just a different ownership model than the row house, which are individually kind of owner occupied and owned locations. So, yeah, I'm fine with any of those. Basically 32 to 48, I think, would be a very sound landing point for council.
Please.
So, for example, if it were 32, that would be more owner occupied?
In this district, at least the way I'm thinking through it, since it's considered multifamily, you'd be thinking about it as a duplex owned by, you'd have one owner but a duplex structure, as opposed to a row house where each of those would be
What would the number be
presumed
for a row house?
16. Yeah.
Okay, so I would support 16.
Factor of 16.
Yeah.
Couldn't it be something like a brownstone where there's multiple in there?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I
So-
mean, to me, it's because I was thinking the same question that Susan asked about translating this into real life, and what does that look like, and how does that impact the opportunities for developers and residents? And again, we want flexibility, but I'm understanding that there is flexibility. Developers don't have to do this. This is, giving them the opportunity to do it without having to go through, more process later. So if that's the case, then since our region has is lacking in affordable housing for homeowners, it seems like anything that will produce single ownership or duplex rather than, I don't know, that's, to me, when I picture the character that we have been talking about Dale Summit having, that would be more in line with it. So that there would be a mix of ownership in row housing and duplexes and triplexes and apartment buildings. So if that's going to be able to make that happen, more likely to happen, then that's what I would support.
I think there's some clarity that row houses or townhouses are considered single family. So those would fall under the single family at the 16 feet of that we had just determined for the single-family residential. So even if you're talking about duplex, sorry, I'm gonna.
You're fine.
If you're talking about a duplex, that still would fall under single
Single
family.
family, okay.
Once you get to apartment buildings, that's where you start moving into
How
the
many?
multifamily.
Like triplex, quadplex, like where's the
If they're
number?
if they're rows,
Attached or not attached?
attached or attached or detached.
But I mean, it's so,
Those are
so
single
the
family,
duplex
but
is
if you
single,
have 4, like a quad,
yeah,
that's multifamily.
that's multi. So 4 is multi, a triplex is not.
If they're side by side, I think that's the
Can they be
delineator.
attached and be a triplex and be
Yeah.
owner, single, okay.
We're really.
So that's some of the difference. We're trying to
And-
push in the difference between the mixed core and the mixed neighborhood. This is where you start seeing some of how we're trying to control that visual. Because if you set the mixed family non-residential at the same minimum as the mixed neighborhood, single family, it starts becoming just a mixed core everywhere. And
Right.
so
You want it
this minimum is
smaller
what
and for low-
delineates.
For higher density in the
Yeah.
central area.
Right.
Yeah, so what number would that be?
So that's the
It's more than
question. We're-
20.
More than 20.
More than 20.
More than 20.
And what we're talking about, I think we're talking about the principle. Are we going with, say, 40, between 20 and 60 as sort of a compromise, or a multiple of 16?
I know, but what do those look like in real life though? Like, what's the difference for that
Therein
area?
lies the challenge.
Well,
That's what
well,
I'm trying to understand.
So let me take a stab at this. I mean, as I've worked through these things, and we're talking about multifamily, I'm trying to think of a good example. So, sure, okay, maybe a little less high, but on Rolling Ridge Drive, we have the Mountain Inn residences, okay? That's an apartment building, okay? And that that one happens to be 7 or 8 stories high, be that as it may, but visualize that at whatever height we're talking about here, and let's, for the sake of argument, say 6 stories, there must be, I don't know, 50 to 80 units that are in that development. So that's the type of thing that when I see multifamily in this mixed neighborhood, which is to be a less dense neighborhood, it's only less dense from the standpoint of how compact the buildings are next to one another, as opposed to how many people or how many families can be accommodated
Right.
in a particular structure.
Okay, that's helpful, yeah.
So that, to me, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think it's important to create the distinction between the single family in the mixed neighborhood and the multifamily in the mixed neighborhood. Simply for that reason, you can still create the density. We're giving, another way to look at all of this, in my opinion, is we are providing multiple tools to create density. Any one singular tool could do it, but it doesn't have to, because there are other opportunities to create density in the regulations that we're putting forward here. So I think that's important to just keep in mind in the back of your mind. Just because it's on a certain size lot doesn't mean we aren't, or so far away from something else, doesn't mean we aren't still going to create density. Because when you do have that kind of density created in something that's a little bit further apart, you got to remember they have some open space requirements, there's parking there's a variety of other things that also get added and layered into all of these things. So when you start to think about it in those terms, to me, it becomes pretty apparent that you need to have a little more space at a minimum to work with in this multifamily, non-residential neighborhood district.
You know, given that, I favor 48. I favor a multiplier of 16 because it's consistent with what's in the single-family residential and the same zone, and I think that this is about form, and then within that form, how it's developed, but for the sake of some, I don't want to say symmetry, because it wouldn't be perfectly symmetrical, but it would be more consistent.
I said I could favor either, but after listening to that, that's an argument to be closer to 60
Or 64.
or 64. So if, for that, following that logic of Adams, then that has me leaning to 48, if we're choosing
Right.
between 40 and 48. And I'm hoping we're down to those two.
I think we are.
Otherwise, we're not going to get through the
I
night.
think we are.
But listening to Adam makes sense now. So I'm leaning towards 48, or something closer to 60 out of the choices.
I'm leaning more towards 48 as well.
Okay.
I'm still at 40.
48.
Okay. I think consensus is 48 then.
Thank you, Adam. That was helpful. Clarification.
We need more tape on the floor.
These are difficult. Yeah, I mean,
Let me say
it
that
would be a lot easier.
I favor 48 as long as that number is not 1 at the
I
bottom.
honestly believe that.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Then we need to clarify that
Because
one
otherwise
is a
it shoots
4.
Adam's theory
That
at
one is a 4.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Then we need to make it.
Next, we just
96.
have the setbacks for accessory buildings. We didn't go into this a whole lot. There is a little bit of difference between staff and PC's recommendations on the mixed-family non-residential in terms of rear setback. I think that was just DPZ's recommendation was 1, and that's where staff approached it from, and PC's recommendation 3. Again, this is for accessory buildings on a lot. So are there any questions or direction in regards to these?
I mean, so far, I think we're pretty much all favoring density at some level, but Rich, comments on the accessories?
I don't have a strong opinion on it, so I'm deferring to the consultant, whose
Same.
staff has gone.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
Same?
Now we'll get into building heights. Let's see. Mixed core, again, more density. Single-family residential, the recommendation for principal building is 3. The height recommendation for mixed-family non-residential, staff's recommendation, again, through DPZ's recommendation was 5. PC recommends going to 6. Mixed neighborhood, the less dense, single-family, again, 3. Because that just makes sense for a single-family unit. You're not really going above 3 stories for a single-family unit. Mixed-family, non-residential, staff's recommendation was 4. PC went 1 higher with 5. The others are pretty standard. So we welcome any direction in regards to height.
I have a clarifying question before we go around. In terms of our workforce housing ordinance, so we would allow height bonuses. So I know we talked about how this zoning code supersedes certain things in other parts of the code. How would those two pieces fit together? So if we were to say favor 6, would we be potentially adding a height bonus as part of a workforce housing? How does this work?
I would imagine so.
I think a lot of these densities will trigger workforce
exactly,
housing
exactly.
with an extra story or not.
Right.
I think
That
that,
becomes the developer's option, but that is something that if we're going to look at a height, we might have to consider that might be something we would consider.
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty clear, once we know what the criteria are here, we're gonna have to go back, and in particular with the workforce housing ordinance, review that, because there may need to be some modifications to that.
Okay.
And remember, I mean, this is a particular district.
Right.
And we may even exclude the utilization, potentially, I'm not suggesting this, but potentially the decision could be made to exclude the utilization of the height bonus within form-based code district.
Okay, that's helpful.
I mean, to be determined.
Right. But that is, I just wanted to be sure, since we're talking
We just
height.
we just have to keep in mind that, yeah, definitely we have to review it, but we also have to keep in mind the fact that our workforce housing ordinance is going to apply in districts beyond just here in our form-based code district. That's all.
And that is something to consider with height. You know, obviously, an extra story will trigger workforce housing
Or the
more
workforce
than
housing,
the
the
lower
density.
height one, so that is a consideration.
Grace?
I have no questions. I agree with staff's recommendations.
Eric?
I'd be happy with 5, but I'll settle with 4.
Same.
Did we decide on the mixed score, or 5 or 6? I
Mixed
think-
score of the 5 or 6?
Yeah,
I don't know, did we decide on 5 or 6?
No,
No.
no.
so that kind of influences the next one, I think,
Okay.
a little bit.
Then let's zip back to mixed family, non-residential, and the mixed core, and have that conversation.
I don't know if it's helpful, and I brought this up with Planning Commission. When Lindsay and I did a field trip around State College looking at buildings. Perfect example, everyone's familiar with the 100 block of South Allen Street. You know, between College and Beaver Avenue. That's pretty dense. If you go and stand in the middle of that street, those buildings are all either 3 or 4 stories. There's nothing higher than 4 stories. And it gets you some pretty good density with the commercial on the bottom. So that gives you a perspective what we would get with 4 stories, if that helps you kind of picture. And this falls upon you. What do you see College Township as being? Do you see it as 100 block of South Allen? Do you see it as the Beaver Canyon? When you get into the bigger buildings, but that's a great thing. I found it enlightening. It was to get perspective, standing there counting and like, gee, this always looked pretty busy and dense, and there's 3 and 4 story buildings is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and for context, those, you know, what we're showing there are all local examples.
Yeah, the far right is at the corner of Pew and B.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Rich, on the mixed core, multifamily and non-residential
And
height.
I'm just trying to count the floors on the Glenland.
The Glenwood?
5.
5.
5 on the front. I think there's 6 or 7 till you hit the back
Yeah,
part
because
of
it
it.
is like that.
It's at a slope.
Using that as a concept, I like the 5.
I'm good with either.
What would you say?
I'm good with either, 5 or 4. I'm good.
I like the higher number, but it's between 5 and yellow 4, right?
No, we're on mixed family, non-residential of mixed core, so
5 and
5 or
six.
6.
Between
We're on
5 and
column
6.
2, so we didn't get down to that before we got to column 4 with height.
All right, well, my comment's going to be the same on both, so,
You like the higher for the denser.
yeah,
Well, and that's where you kind of, you know, split the difference. If one of the things tied back to our affordable housing is maybe you set it at 5, but you have, if you trigger the affordable housing, you have the ability to go to 6. That's, you
but
know.
I'm
thinking of that
fine with
discussion.
5. I mean, if the consensus is 5, I mean, we're really,
Splitting hairs.
Yeah, I
Splitting
mean,
hairs.
If we want to, is it my turn? So Mike, if we want to do what you just said, with the 5 and then incentive for 6 with then what would we pick, 5 or 6?
You would pick 5, but you would have language in the ordinance that speaks to if you are, you know, triggering the affordable housing ordinance, you have the potential incentive to get an additional floor. That's the only way you can go to 6, is
So
if
if
you're
I
putting
support-
attainable housing in it.
If I support that, then right now I tell Susan 5?
Well, I would probably frame
tell
it with
them.
5 with them. I would probably,
And then Susan can tell you.
You tell them.
Well, I support that. That's what I support.
and that kind of gets to Eric's point of he's comfortable with 6, but the only way you get there is by
Triggering
triggering
the
the affordable
density.
housing.
That makes me even more comfortable with 6 then,
Yes,
so.
I'd be comfortable with 6 as well, under those.
So your base
Six
is
is a bit-
5, 6
yeah.
is if you're utilizing the affordable housing.
And that's great, so now we don't even have to go back and rewrite the affordable housing.
I'm just trying to get less work, that's all.
Good job.
Good. So that brings us to mixed neighborhood, multifamily, non-residential height. Gretchen?
Okay. So does the same concept apply here? Then my logic would be the same for what I support.
Same.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
Yep.
Okay, great. We've tackled height. There are other guidelines in the code that speak to, we mentioned one here, stories are measured finished floor to finished floor. They have the option of having a 25-foot first floor with like an entry type thing, mezzanine, like those are all addressed in there, but they're pretty standard things. So the height was one that we definitely needed to have input from council, so we appreciate that. But if you're bored and you want to read all those other things, go ahead. All right, so we are moving then into a quick conversation about special districts. I shouldn't say quick conversation because it could be lengthy as well. Talking about the same things we just talked about with the other districts, but these are more specific and had been selected based on what uses really were anticipated in those special districts. So Special District 1 is the Nittany Mall area. 20-foot minimum lot width, there is no maximum. The idea of that was you already have an established building on that lot, so we didn't want to force somebody to have to break up that building in order to be compliant. So that's where the 0 maximum comes from. Again, the idea is that that's kind of the middle of the mixed core, and so that's where you would see some of that larger use. Lot coverage, 90% is across the board. Setbacks, 4 minimum, 0 and 5, all pretty standard across the board there. The only difference, so we'll just talk about the differences. Lot width is different, and then height is different. So lot width for Nittany Mall, we said, is 20 minimum, no maximum. Shiloh Road, where we're seeing or anticipating some of that larger box retail or the possibility of those, that's where you see a 20-foot minimum, a 700-foot maximum. And then Special District 3, Corning Industrial, where we see maybe some potentially heavier industrial use that won't fit in the mixed core, mixed neighborhood, a 20-foot minimum, 800-foot maximum. So let's talk lot width. Is there any thoughts or concerns or suggestions from council in terms of those
Is there,
lots?
can we see the regulating, how big is the Nittany Mall special district? Is it limited to the Nittany Mall
It's
property?
just limited
to
It's just
that
the property,
parcel.
okay, it's the boundary of the
That was,
property.
that was the
And
other
the Shiloh Road?
guiding thing.
Shiloh Road,
Is really the corridor.
Yeah.
So from from Benner Pike to the interchange.
to the, okay.
Well,
And it's
further
it's
down.
really
To the
more
Benner
Trout,
Pike boundary,
yeah, it's more
right.
actually Trout Road beyond to Benner, Trout Road to
Okay,
Benner.
very good.
Oh, okay, all right, because we have,
That's true. You're right.
so then, and then Corning is just the Corning property, again, the boundary of the property?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, all right,
Now, the one thing I will flag, and when you look at the regulating map on the screen there,
yeah.
you see another one. You see a fourth one that's
the
kind of in the
bottom.
pink down at the bottom.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is-
over in the left, the
Yeah.
bottom left.
Yep, thank you, Adam. This is a district that came to our attention here in the last week,
Yeah.
based on conversations with a potential developer out there. And honestly, it was an oversight on our end. That's the former Keepone site that has some limitations because it's a EPA
Superfund.
Superfund site. So realistically, you're not developing residential there. There's some limitations on what you can do with that property. So at this point, that's, from a staff perspective, you can do one of two things with that. You can carve it out of the regulating map and leave it alone, and it would fall under whatever it's zoned today, general industrial. Or you create it as its own special district, and they get the benefit of some of the lot dimension stuff that would be built into a special district as part of form-based. But in that conversation, it was kind of a light bulb moment for all of us is, yeah, you're not wrong. You've got a good argument here. That should probably be either carved out or a special district.
Do we need to make that decision? Now?
I think it's
Now?
a question in your minds as to what makes more sense. Leave it in as part of the form base as a special district or carve it out.
All right. So that's a little bit of a different thing that we haven't discussed.
Right.
I mean, do members of council feel prepared to have that discussion?
I mean, I'd have to get more information.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Staff
I can wait, but I would ask that when we come back to discuss it, which one of those options makes it easier for us to extend Bush Avenue? And I mean, I'm actually serious.
Yeah, no.
Since it's on
That's a
our
good question.
master, it's on our,
It's on our official
Capital
map.
yeah.
But the Bush Avenue extension is on our official map. It's been there for some time.
it's
To
now
be
on our,
honest, I think it's a difference without a distinction. I don't think it matters. To be honest, I think that, ownership and occupancy rules and regulations are still going to apply, whether this is a special district or it stays an industrial zone. The key with form-based is it doesn't change any of those underlying legal descriptions, legal
I was
precedents
thinking more
relative
like
to property.
setbacks, if they were huge.
Yeah,
and
I
they couldn't
mean,
build in
that-
that, it'd be easier to negotiate.
Well, I mean, in that case, and that would likely be, Eric, the one area that it would benefit the owners of the property to be in form base. Because that would, even though they may have to give up some right-of-way, it would give them the ability to do more with what is left over.
So the incentive would, or-
So there would still be there would be more incentive there than there would be if we left it strictly as industrial.
So I have a question procedurally. Is this something that we need to make a decision on as a new agenda item on a future agenda? I mean, I don't
No,
understand, in
if-
terms of
if-
zoning, is it something that rises to a level that we have to do?
This is really a regulating map decision. So,
Okay.
I mean, you can have that discussion. From my perspective, and this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking on behalf of staff. My opinion is it's a special district.
That's what I was.
Because you get the benefit of the other elements of form-based code tied into the context that's surrounding it in form-based code. You don't want an area sticking out like a sore thumb.
That's what I.
But that would be, that's my recommendation. I wouldn't say that for the rest of staff.
and it certainly supports what I asked.
So staff could create a special district 4 and put together some proposed regulations that would
That would be
fit
helpful.
that area and bring it back for the next
Maybe at the next work
discussion.
session, we could discuss that?
A lot of this is, for this district in particular, is going to be use-driven.
Right.
So in terms of the lot specifications, you can mimic core very easily here, or one of the other districts, but it's going to be based on use. And that's where your restrictions are because it's a Superfund site.
And I think, Carrie, the additional information will
Yep.
help everyone at the table, so.
Yeah, that's why we
Thank you.
didn't dive into it at a great length, but we wanted to at least bring it to your attention tonight that this is going to be an area that we're going to have to make a decision on.
When it has the classification of Superfund site, is that forever?
It's for a very long time, if not forever. I don't know that there have been any decommissioned Superfund sites? So there have been. This is moving in that direction, but it's not there yet. We have
Like,
reviews.
this has been remediated, right?
And it is being remediated. yes.
Currently.
And it still is, yes, at a much lesser level today than
How
when
long
it-
has it been undergoing remediation?
Well, it's since before I got here. So it's been,
70s, 60s, 60s
yeah,
or 70s.
well,
7,
probably in the 70s is when the Superfund stuff showed up at the federal level. So it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
But
okay.
they, they have made significant progress. Areas that they were very concerned about initially have greatly improved. Now what's happening is they're treating, continue to treat groundwater. And as they go through their process, typically they're seeing less and less and less and less each 5-year period. So it is moving in the right direction, and eventually we would hope that that would end up being decommissioned. That said, that doesn't automatically mean it's free and clear for anybody to do anything that they want at any time. There still may be federal restrictions about ongoing occupancy of certain portions of the site, and those are the conditions that are in place right now for a section of this site. That's the other unique part of this. While it's all a singular property, there are two distinct areas that define that one property. One is a no-go zone, and the other is there's buildings, there's activity, there's all these things that are occurring. So over time, there may be less restrictions in the no-go area, but I think it stands to reason that there will always be some level of occupancy restriction.
I feel safe saying not in my lifetime.
So I was going to say, your grandchildren will be here on council, and they may make that decision 75, 80 years from now. Will we change the zoning at this point? That's what I would anticipate.
Well, the reason I asked is because when my kids were little, they went to the preschool that's straight down from there, and there was a point where we all discovered that this, and the groundwater, and we did so much investigating, all the parents at this preschool, and we were all fine with the level of remediation, the ground, I mean, it seemed very safe, and these were, very young children we were talking about. So that's why I asked, because I thought, well, I know it was pretty good, a while back, and so, but yeah, it's gonna be a while.
If it's going to be that long, why did the local investors in the non-built parcels go through the trouble of the subdivision not that long ago?
The biggest restriction, it was, some of the restrictions were lifted. They can have non-residential,
Yeah, that's what I
industrial
thought,
type
because
uses.
we approved a subdivision, 8, 9 years ago?
Yes, and that was when it became available for certain minimal uses. You couldn't build a hotel there, you can't build a restaurant
Right, but I mean,
there.
it could be developed right now.
Yes.
As
In a
long as they're
certain
developing the.
Yes, with a lot of restrictions on what, as Adam said, what the uses, permitted uses.
It would likely mimic Corning's, the regulations we're looking at for the Corning property special district would likely be pretty similar to that section.
And we could even conceivably just duplicate the Corning district and say, this has got the same rules as that.
Possibly. Staff
Well,
will
we'll
look
work
at it.
on
We'll have, yeah,
Ultimately,
we'll have
we'll
that
bring that
conversation
back.
when we have more information.
Yeah, we'll bring that back.
So coming back to special districts, where are we?
So we talked about the lot width then for those the three existing special districts. Is there any comments, direction, concerns with those lot widths?
How do you have a zero foot maximum?
It would be, the property lines would be the boundary for your lot.
Yeah, it's just the mall property is that special
It should just be
district.
no max.
I was gonna say lot width would be.
Oh, no, yeah, it
It
should
should be
say no
none.
max.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's
Okay.
what was implied
Okay.
there, but yeah,
Okay.
no max. Because you're constrained by the
Or-
parcel
yeah.
boundaries. So,
No maximum, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that helps.
No questions.
Gretchen?
Some of this was just philosophical, I will tell you, in terms of how it was developed with Planning Commission. Obviously the Nittany Mall, the big thing that sticks out there is the height. Special district on Shiloh Road, the big thing that sticks out there is the lot width maximums. And that was philosophically looking at big box. And Corning was to try to allow for larger, kind of the industrial that doesn't fit within the context of the rest of the district could potentially land at Corning. The piece that's changes from what DPZ recommended, just to give you some perspective, particularly around Shiloh Road, is they didn't want to accommodate big box.
At all.
So that's a philosophical discussion in terms of that district. That's where PC landed. It's a question, and I didn't hear any comments, so it seems like there's a comfort level with that, but
Yeah,
that was where that came
PC
from.
wanted to preserve the ability for a nondescript big box type of a situation along that particular part of the corridor.
Yeah.
And they did feel very strongly about that.
They did.
And so that's one of the reasons that we're here tonight, because we need to know how council feels about that as well.
Well, that's more illustrative. Are there any other discussions based on what Adam and staff has shared?
I mean, I have, I guess, a comment.
Sure.
Just, I mean, what it makes me think about is incentive for developers versus, our dreamland. And so, if we need there to be the ability for box stores, and that's what planning commission is telling us, then I get that. I don't necessarily know that the citizens of College Township are dying for box stores there. I don't know about that. But we're trying to take an area that is, not much is happening and make something happen. And so I'm interested to hear my fellow council members' opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If PC feels it necessary to have it somewhere, that little appendage certainly seems to be the best place, because it certainly doesn't compromise what we're trying to do geographically with this. I mean, it's a little piece that sticks up at the top, happens to be on a corridor that links to I-99. So if someone said you have to have a section for big box in here somewhere, I'd probably pick that. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
First for the question, MC, what is MC?
Mixed core. So
Okay.
I was going to comment that you might want to consider reducing those to 16 feet. The reason it says mixed core is because that was based off of the minimums for the mixed core district, which you all determined to be 16 feet. So for consistency, council would, if you want to consider reducing those minimums to 16 feet to be consistent.
Or going back to Adam's point about the less dense mixed neighborhood and all that kind of, do we want to intentionally be in something else?
So all of those special districts, the majority of them fall within the mixed core of the regulating map, which is why we went
Okay.
with that.
So you're trying to be consistent with that? Okay.
Yes. So they have the option to build as if it's mixed core,
Yep.
or the option to build as if it's not
As a special
special.
district? Okay. Okay,
And
thanks.
that makes, I mean, that may give you a little bit of comfort. It doesn't have to be developed in that fashion. The fact that the continuation of the mixed core, as we have talked about earlier, could continue there is simply based on the owner's decisions or a developer's decisions.
So the next thing I would go is that the 700 and 800 and none afford opportunity for a mini box or
Yes.
a human-sized box instead of the huge ones. And realizing that we already have a home where those live, and do we need more of those? So I'm comfortable with how this is presented. If bringing it into continuity with the underlying, which is the mixed core. Yeah.
And I have a question, 700, how wide is Sam's Club?
That's what it was based off
Yeah.
of.
I
Picked a random big box and.
And I think philosophically, I think what you were saying, Gretchen, I agree with you, that we have big boxes now, and a lot of the character and intent of what we're trying to do in form-based code is create those mixed uses and lots of mixed uses, not just one large mixed use. So creating that opportunity, I think there's consensus for 700 at this point, but for what it's worth, I agree with you on that.
I have a question. So are there, I mean, throughout the past 5 years or so, are there comparable spaces of this size in College Township that have been vacant? Or do they tend to, remain active?
They've turned over, the ones that have vacated have turned over that I'm aware of. You know, I'm thinking of like what was it, Office Depot?
Yeah, the giant.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're, the one you really get into trouble with is when a grocery store vacates. Those are tough to, most of the time they get knocked down and put something else on.
Are there any spaces vacant in the mall that are comparable to these?
To that size? Now, it's all the interior corridor stuff that's pretty big.
Good. I'm good.
But you need clarification on the 16-foot. Yeah? Any disagreement on the 16-foot?
In terms of height, a little bit of context there. First of all, because you determined that 5 feet would be the height in the mixed core,
Nope,
these, I mean, in the mixed
5 stories.
Stories.
5 stories.
5 feet.
5 feet. We really want density, everybody's squeezing in there, yeah.
Really
Talking
flat.
height, not setback.
At least I didn't say 5 inches, like, you went with 5 stories in the mixed core as the maximum height. So my suggestion for council to consider would be that 5 feet should be the max stories.
Easy for
5
you to
stories
say.
should be the max stories in Shiloh and Corning. The other thing for consideration is the Nittany Mall was recommended at 10 stories to be that one location that there could potentially be a convention center with a large hotel, that's really that entertainment district right there in the middle. That is the reasoning behind allowing for a higher story, not feet, in the Nittany Mall Special District. So with all those considered, we welcome council's direction.
Okay. All 3 special districts are in the mixed core.
Yes.
You're special. And looking at those 3, going back to our discussion of 5 or 6 and all that kind of stuff, the more height that you get, I think the more opportunities we have for more of our workforce housing ordinance kicking in. So I could actually, these are special, and I would be okay with 10 in all 3.
I would agree. I was thinking the same thing, like they're special, even though they're mixed core. I still think they can be distinct, and I would agree. I would agree with the 6, but if we all agree on the 10, I'm good with that too.
So the reason that they're not, I like 10, but the reason that we're scaling down to 6, now we're talking form, right, context.
Right.
So that's where we're shifting priority from density to context.
Yeah. Yeah, those 2 obviously stick consistent with their underlying district, or at least attempt to.
The 2 that are listed as 6.
Yes. Yeah,
So
and the
that's-
Nittany Mall, that one was a special district specific for height.
Oh, I'm absolutely on board with 10 for them all. I mean, for the reasons you noted, makes all the sense in the world, but now, Rich and Tracy have me thinking, Would it be
Well-
that bad if Corning was 10?
And there was this debate happened at PC too. You know, because they were all over the place in terms of height, and this is where they settled, but
No, I can go with either. I mean, I like 10, but I want to respect whoever is pushing for the context.
I think some of that context too is if you're looking at where they're located. So you're on Shiloh nearing 99, you're on College Ave nearing
Oh, yeah, no, I
the
understand.
Township line. So 10 may stick out
Yeah.
like a sore thumb in those areas.
Yeah, just looking at it, the corridor, especially the Shiloh Road, you know, you're right there at the highway.
The boundary.
Maybe just as a, like something,
I was gonna suggest,
Like
some-
8 or-
yeah, 7 or 8. I mean, these are all special districts. One of them is more special than the others. Okay? I think that we've kind of, we've recognized that with the 10 for the Nittany Mall property. That's our very special district, okay? And that is definite, yeah, I mean, that's your core.
Yeah.
And, you know, remember all the renderings and
Yep.
things that we had? I mean, some of that through the charrette process, some of that came out there. And so, you know, that's a great focal point. And if you can develop it 10 stories-esque in that area, that's great.
How about,
No, I was just gonna say, but you may want to get away from the mixed core maximum of 6. But you don't want to get to 10.
to the super specials district.
what do you think, Gretchen?
ability of the Townsend to go to 6.
Well, first of all, I love that you just called it very special. Because it really is very special.
That is a very special.
Very special. I see Adam's point about having the very special district be substantially, you know, noticeably different, taller. So I would be fine with the 6, but if other people want 10, then 8 might work.
I favor 6. I favor 6 because I think it's a gradual introduction to height at the center, which is the very special place. And I think if we find in the future, this is not the last time we're going to do this, and I think there's lots to come. So I think having that sort of ease gradually into it. I know the reactions in the community to the high rises in the borough and the change in the character, they don't. And so, but I think we need to have that height, and I think, the 10 stories. So I favor 6.
I favor 6, and then next would be 8.
I favor 8.
I favor 8, and I think just to share a perspective, at the County Planning Commission, we received a presentation on the borough zoning and everything, and it was very interesting, in particular with what they're trying to do in the West End, which they've been totally unsuccessful in getting anything done.
Yeah.
But there are, based on the proposed zoning ordinance, they're already starting to get phone calls and discussions and things like that, and they're pushing for 11, and I don't think that's, that's not appropriate here.
Who's
but-
they? Is it the developers who
Yeah,
are
the
making phone
developer.
calls?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's, okay, we're generating excitement, we're actually gonna get something done, versus having, we have a perfect ordinance and nothing gets done. That's what the old West End ordinance was, and it's executed exactly. So I like 8, as
So we're at 8 or 6 now. Oh, boy.
You might want to hear from Mike.
Let me just ask a question here. So if I'm understanding where council's at, the willingness to go higher in this district is tied to residential?
What's that?
The willingness to go to a higher height is tied back to housing? Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
Okay. All right.
But
That's what I thought I heard.
But it would be nice if you could live where you work.
Sure.
And I think it affords that potential opportunity.
Where I was headed with that was I was gonna throw in then we start talking about that affordable housing incentive too.
Yeah.
If you set it at 6, but if it's housing and you're doing affordable housing, you can go to 8. You know, that's, but I wanted to, that's why I asked the question. I wanted to clarify if we were talking strictly about housing or if this was just in
You
general.
mentioned housing, Eric. Eric, you mentioned housing.
Yeah, no, it wasn't really a housing issue with me either. I just don't have the heartburn over seeing 8 stories or 10 for that matter.
Well, I'm, from my perspective, if it's special, we're at 5 for the others, right, for the mixed corridor, and it could go to 6. So is it really special or different if we're just keeping that same form? I understand continuity, but I feel like in the special district, we can give it a little more pizzazz.
And I will just say for context that special district doesn't necessarily mean it has to be special in all regulations. The reason those special districts exist were more use-based
Right.
than the others. So it wasn't necessarily creating some of that special, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, we're talking in heavy industrial in the Corning because we needed to have somewhere that heavy industrial could go, partially because we have the
MPs.
Shared use.
shared use with Patton Township, so ensuring that we had that. So that's really like, just make sure that when you're thinking about height, you're thinking about the use that was,
Yeah.
I mean, special
That those
districts
were
are places
created
where
for.
things that don't fit in other places will ultimately go, so it could just, yeah.
Well, and that's, again, one of the reasons I asked about the housing component. We're going to get back to the use chart, but when you look at the use chart, particularly for Corning, you see a lot of stuff stripped out relative to residential. So I'm just trying to understand the kind of where you were at contextually.
So we're at 6 or 8. I mean, we've agreed that we're gonna go with 6 or 8, so why don't we just make a decision?
Well, I mean, if it's an incentive for developers to build affordable housing, if they do 8, then I would support that.
It would be 8 as a height bonus on 6.
Right.
So
If
would
the
you start
incentive-
at 8 and then go to 10 with the height bonus, or 6 and go to 8 on the height
I
bonus?
mean, I think 6 to 8 would
Okay.
be a great way to go.
So it would be 6.
I think listening to Mike, if I'm correct, we may get into uses and realize that even if we're at 8, none of these uses are going to make, there's no financial incentive for somebody to go to 8 stories for this use, right, or no need. Is
Yeah,
that-
I mean, that's particular to Corning because it's really not envisioned, at least in the use chart, as a residential component.
So does
That
it-
doesn't apply to Shiloh.
Does it make any sense then to revisit this once we have a better understanding of what the heck kind of uses we're talking about and whether it's even realistic to think somebody's going to go 8 stories, or if there's really a likelihood that if we set 8 at the max, everybody will go to 8?
I think that's fair to put this in the parking lot. I mean, right now, our base is 6. And as we talk through the use charts and think about it again, kind of holistically, we know that that's still an opening, that you maybe want to go up to 8.
Yeah, look, I think it's highly likely that there are going to be several different things that we're going to come back to revisit. Even the things that we've talked about this evening. We haven't even talked about parking yet. We haven't talked about stormwater. There are things that are going to influence the decisions that you've made tonight, but that's okay, because you had to make those decisions now to be able to put everything in the context. So I think you're right. Once you review those uses on height, it may click, and you'll know what the answer is when you get back to it.
That was a suggestion.
All right.
I think Rich.
But I would only go back to our initial instructions,
Yeah, I know.
which were form. And so it's a question, do we have issue with it being 8 and everything? So, and we're assuming that we have this vision of anything and everything that might end up going into this. And I know I don't. and everything. So
And then
like,
I-
if it was a, if
That's
it was
what I
a
was
middle,
wondering.
if it was a middle, like a medical campus,
Fair.
or, you know, so it really, for me, it's, do I have an issue with it being an 8-story in those districts? And my answer is I don't.
And then so we can move on, I'll say I don't either.
I don't.
Recognizing we're going to get back to it when we get to uses, and we all reserve our right to say, okay, no, 8 now doesn't make sense, 6 looks better.
Sure,
But you're
leave
right.
that open.
We were supposed to put our blinders on tonight and stick to the,
Till we make the next step, right?
Right.
but I suspect that won't be the only thing we revisit.
Oh,
sure,
when we get into
100%.
uses.
Yeah, Adam just said that. We're gonna be, it's circular, it's not linear.
Well, that was a recurrent theme with planning commission. Everything that you talk about, we can come back and revisit if something triggers later down the line.
So then we'll go to
You will soon-
uses.
You will soon understand why it took so long to get through planning commission.
I think you
This is very complicated, and it's constantly changing. When you add a new piece, you revisit everything you've already done.
Or the trust your instinct.
Uses?
Before we get into
Governance.
uses, one more brief topic under those form standards is encroachments. There's minor facade and major facade encroachments. Minor facade elements can encroach into the setback. Those are what's listed here: roof overhangs, cornices, window, door, surrounds, etc. They can encroach into the setback 2 feet. Minor facade elements shall not encroach into the right-of-way. So they're allowed to go 2 feet into that setback that we've established. They cannot go into the right-of-way. Major facade elements can encroach into the setback up to the right-of-way line. Those are bay windows, bow windows, display windows, balconies, etc. Those facade elements shall, again, not encroach into the right-of-way, but they are allowed to go up to the right-of-way. Is there any heartburn or issues with those encroachments?
I have a question. So, because it specifically says, for example, porches, canopies, outdoor seating, and I'm just trying to understand the logic. Like, if we want to make it easier for businesses to be able to have outdoor seating in the summer, is that
this
what
allows
we do?
that, yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
So they can put that seating on their property up to that right-of-way line versus having to keep it 2 feet from their front door, which is what the minor facade ones are. So that allows for them to have that seating area. They have to make sure that there's enough pedestrian way for people to be moving through there, but that's established in the right-of-way as the sidewalk, so it should.
So that way they can put outdoor seating without having to apply for
Right.
a special, okay, great.
Any concerns, Rich?
No, the assumption is that the encroachment on the 0 side setbacks wouldn't exist. You wouldn't do that. So, but yeah.
Any concerns, Eric?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So now we go back to uses that we discussed at the last work session during the council meeting. And the primary reason for bringing that back was some discussion about conditional versus use by right. I just want to preface again to remember that the primary purpose of form-based code is the physical form of the building and less focus on the use of the building. That's why you initially see almost everything is listed as a use by right, except for a few of the conditional uses, and most of what you see as conditional use is listed under civic, and that was actually to give civic buildings more flexibility than less flexibility. That's what's written in the code if you go into those sections and look at those details in terms of uses for civic buildings. So that's kind of why you didn't see a whole lot of conditional use. It's to move away from making everything a conditional use. We're not focusing as much on that. We're focusing on the form. So before we get into that discussion, I just wanted to give that reminder as well.
All right, how do you want to take this?
Let's go, we can go section by section, if that works. So starting with residential. Again, you'll see in the special districts that residential was, or in Corning Industrial particularly, that residential was not a focus for that area, given the emphasis on heavy industrial that you'll see later in that. But PC pretty much felt that it should all be allowed in those other districts in terms of up to 15 dwelling units per lot, more than 15 dwelling units per lot. They didn't want to regulate in terms of how many units could be in those. Is there any questions about how residential is laid out?
What is a no-impact home-based business?
That's one that people aren't coming to, so you don't have any,
So you're baking food and taking it out of the house?
yeah, you don't have anyone coming and going to that business.
And home occupations, is that a home office or something?
I think home occupation was said that it's minimal impact and it's below like a few people coming and going from that property.
Yeah, so it'd be like a
Seamstress.
one-chair hair salon in your house.
Got it.
Not a 6-chair hair salon in your house. The home occupation would be for you, you'd have one chair, you'd only see 1 or 2 people an hour.
Got it. Any comments? Residential?
Nope.
The only thing I'd offer is low impact versus no impact, but,
In terms of home occupation,
yeah.
just to be consistent.
And what is the difference on that?
Most
No
businesses,
impact.
I was gonna say, most businesses have
low-
some,
Low impact.
yeah,
Yeah.
but saying no impact it's a tough standard.
That's a good point.
Any comments or thoughts?
Kind of the same at that point.
Christine?
I agree that low makes more sense than no. Because even if you like teach music lessons out of your house, you still have people coming and going and your neighbors are aware, so.
So given that, it really makes no impact and home occupation pretty much the same if we're calling them low impact. And then we would make those a use across those first 4 districts.
So we'd add home occupations to Nittany Mall and Shiloh?
Yeah, we'll just
Yeah.
call them low impact.
Combine the two.
business.
And what is live/work? I mean, what does that mean? I kind of think this whole thing is live/work.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So
That's
how is
fair.
that, what is that calling out that I might be needing to know better?
I think you're fair in your assessment there, Susan, that basically those 3, by doing it as low impact,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of rolls it all up, and it's everywhere except Corning. Would we have that
Yeah,
in
the
Corning?
reason that residential wasn't included in Corning again was the
Yeah.
idea that it was going to be a heavier industrial
Right.
use. So you wouldn't want to mix.
So it's almost like we're going back to a
residential
little
with
bit of Euclidean zoning
A
over
little
there,
with
just to
that
keep
one,
that
yeah.
industrial away from the residential. Yeah.
But again, that's council's
Prerogative.
prerogative if you don't feel you want it to be that secluded of a use.
So thinking about the Shiloh Road corridor, that to me probably makes more sense for it to include that residential component than perhaps the Corning site. Just given historical context, the way that we think about it. That said, one of the things to keep in mind are what are other uses that are around those particular locations, right? So with respect to Shiloh Road, we know that there's already a 600-unit apartment complex that is about to be under development. So that kind of ties into providing the opportunity and a context for adding that type of live-work situation in that particular special district.
And there will be commercial in Shiloh, in Crew 814.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just something to to keep in trying to think about this context. And boy, we are using that word a lot, but it's a really important concept. What we end up envisioning.
Right.
And that's a challenge. It's been a challenge throughout this whole thing, is everybody's mental picture of each of these respective districts may be a little different. And it's not something we can necessarily throw up on the screen and say, that's it, because that's just mine.
Right.
Yeah.
We're giving you our collective, you know, where we got to with those that seems relatively in line with where council looks to go.
So if I'm hearing this right, and correct me, it sounds like we're going to roll up home occupations and live work under low-impact home-based business and make that an allowed use by right everywhere except Corning Industrial, if that's the way we're going. That's
But then that runs counter to the previous conversation that we just had relative to Hyde and Corning.
Yeah, I guess, again, going to the flexibility side, if somebody can find an industrial use on the lower levels and wants to put residential above to pay the bills, help pay the bills, do I have a problem with that? And I don't, as long as it's, the argument that we always make about industrial versus commercial districts, you know, is it provisioned to have people in it all the time? And if it is, then I don't care if they live there. They may not want to live there, or it doesn't make any sense to it. The other part, you know, the sure way to bring down housing costs is supply. Mm-hmm. And so if we afford the maximum opportunities to supply it, and not try to outthink the market, you know, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah, just allow it everywhere.
What about, a quick question, that's a good point, but part of the ordinance is that there would not, the redevelopment would not require any types of amenities to be built in for residential, is that correct? Am I understanding that right?
No, I think there are sidewalk,
Okay.
I think there's
Okay.
standards.
Because
I
that's
thought-
been the big
And
disincentive
I
for
thought
putting.
there was something
There are
in
standards
the,
in
in that draft document that you said we should reference, it was something about not having to do that? I don't know, I'd have to go back. That would be my only concern.
Well, if they don't redevelop it, they don't have to do anything.
Right,
But if
yes.
they redevelop it,
Right, and
they
that's what I'm
absolutely have
asking,
to do this.
if they're gonna redevelop and put residential in, is the condition of doing that
I don't think it's just if they put residential in, we're saying they're
Any,
gonna,
any
yeah,
redevelopment?
Any
Okay,
redevelopment is
Yeah.
gonna trigger
Yeah,
all
okay.
of those.
yes, the requirements, the standards, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I support it as long as they're required to put sidewalks and streetlights and all the things that come with residential, because that avoids the devaluing issue we run into when somebody wants to do something different in residential because it's, or industrial, because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, it's cheaper because you don't have to put all that stuff in.
Those streetscapes that you approved or discussed
Apply to
in the
that.
last one address that there have to be sidewalks, they have to be so wide, there have to be plants. So that will create that for
And streetlights.
any use that's within there.
Well, and residential over by Corning may be less attractive and a little bit more affordable for
Yes.
people. So, yeah,
Yes.
that creates more housing diversity.
Yeah,
So-
although you have the Summit at Shiloh people that bought those incredibly expensive stuff to smell UAJ for all those years, but, you know, hey, I digress.
I always told my kid it was low tide.
So are we coming to a consensus that we want residential to be able to happen at Corning?
I think that's
so.
fair.
Because I support that,
Yes.
if that's where we're going.
As long as,
I support that.
As
And
long
it-
as, as
The
long as the
standards
ordinance.
are the same.
Yeah.
across.
Right, as long as what Eric said. And, you know, I mean, we have no idea because we don't have a crystal ball. This could end up being actually the hippest place in the center region, and everybody's going to want to live there because it is a mix of industrial and residential. So,
Could be.
I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
All right, so we've got consensus then that anything under residential is going to be across the board for
I mean, the way I would look at it, to be honest with you, is that where we're at now, outside of maybe the lot width, is you're basically mimicking uses from Shiloh right into Corning.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So then down into lodging, this was a big discussion within Planning Commission as well. This is where Planning Commission had landed in terms of lodging. The reason that it is more than 12 rooms is not included in mixed neighborhood is again to keep that differentiation between mixed core and mixed neighborhood, to keep it more that neighborhood feel. And then you see more than 12 rooms moving into Nittany Mall and Shiloh. So considering what the discussion you just had about housing, does council want to consider lodging in
Corning?
Corning?
Yes.
But what size? Just confirming. I mean, I think that more than 12 rooms probably fits best there.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
Did you say, what did you say, that
More than
12 rooms or
12.
less fits best?
No, more than 12.
More than 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would support no restrictions. Developers want to come put those in, great.
And do we agree that more than 12 rooms is not a permitted use by right in mixed neighborhood?
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Do you want the 12 rooms or less extended into those special districts? Or do you want the 12 rooms or more?
Yeah, again, context here, the bigger would fit in a special district. The smaller ones, they're
Right.
more appropriate,
Yep.
my way of thinking. They're
Mine
more
too.
appropriate in the mixed core
Yep.
and the mixed neighborhood.
I would agree with Adam.
Boutique,
But that would, I was
You
going to say,
know,
but, you know,
I
a
guess it
developer
doesn't
may want,
matter,
you know,
right?
to Gretchen's point,
Yeah.
if Corning becomes the hippest place, every boutique hotel in the region's going to want to be in the hip place. So,
And we
And
don't
they
want to
can
say
be.
no or
and
discourage
again,
them.
it gives flexibility to the developer. I agree, I probably wouldn't want to do that,
but
but.
that's, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you guys are on the right track here. I was just suggesting that, you know, again, I'm having difficulty. Corning's kind of been what it is for a very long time now.
Taking
And-
those, yeah. taking them
Yeah,
off,
and so it's difficult to kind of,
Gotta use your imagination.
I know.
I don't know,
I
I'm picturing lofts, you know, lofts.
Yeah.
I know, right? That's
Yeah.
what
I
I
was
was
gonna-
picturing.
Yeah,
Hipster
industrial
When
lots are
Rich said, you
popular.
know, that you can make it more affordable, I thought, you can also do the opposite. You can do both right next to each other.
Both next to each other would be great,
Sure.
but yeah.
Or a bit above.
I mean, the other option is just saying lodging and all, as an allowed use by right in all the sections. I mean, if somebody wants to put a B&B in Corning.
I personally don't support that.
Okay.
It'd fill up every football weekend.
All right, well, then it
would.
sounds like
I
at this
know,
point,
I know.
there's some favoring putting the 12 rooms or less, the more than 12 rooms across the board, but keeping B&B out of the special districts. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, on to commercial. We will take these ones sort of line by line. Retail obviously was across the board because it fit all of the districts there. Is there any consternation about retail? Automobile sales and automobile services. We really wanted to focus again on that Shiloh Road Special District because of the amount of area that they take up with car lots and such as that. And the Corning Industrial, given we already have one over there. We did have them listed as a conditional use in the mixed core because this was considered more the mom and pop like repair
Bollesburg.
shop or something within
Well,
that.
Bollesburg Automotive
Yeah,
does
something
both
like
the
Bollesburg.
repairs and
Yes.
a few
Yeah,
nice.
something along
yeah.
those lines. That's why we included them there and had them as conditional
Interesting.
uses for those. No concerns
Any
there?
heartburn with that?
Well, that's a good example.
I just have one comment about that. In my experience on the school board, whenever there was an automobile service business that was right near where people walk, people don't want to live near those, and people don't want to work near those. They're unattractive, and they've got big heavy trucks and stinky stuff and trash, and I don't know. But I get the Bollesburg thing, and that
Yeah.
one's cute.
Yeah, and it
That's
is.
rare. They're
And-
normally not cute.
But that's conditional use.
But, right.
Yeah.
But I just thought that I would point
Yeah.
that out.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I go to Bollesburg Automotive, and I like it because
It's
I can
very
walk
cute.
to drop my car off, and I can walk to pick it up.
Yep.
And they do, and I think if it's conditional use, then we have some control over that, and we can help them adhere to form.
That's
because
fine.
this
I just
form-
wanted to say that.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm good.
Any heartburn with that as it is?
No.
All right.
The Bollesburg is a perfect example. You know, if somebody comes along with that in there, then okay.
I love the Bollesburg because it's right near the pump station. There's like this little farm theme going on down that way.
I have a question. Kind of like what Eric was saying about, as long as, and Carrie said, yes, you do, the street lights, the benches, the park, whatever. Does that apply to an automobile? Because the one in Bollesburg is cute. Do these types of things we've been talking about make it so that this would also potentially be cute and not an eyesore?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, those streetscape standards are across
Gotcha.
the board.
I think that's wonderful.
So you're probably only going to end up with a Bollesburg car
Right,
company even
exactly.
trying to come in under conditional
I think
use.
that's great.
Hopefully, if we get this right.
Yeah.
Daycare preschool was across the board except for Corning because Corning was heavy industrial.
But it's the hip place now, so it's got to go back in.
They go to another
I mean, if you have people living and working there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
we're
think-
adding it in
yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before, we didn't have people living there. Now we do. Now the
they're
daycare
hip.
kind of has to follow,
That's right.
doesn't it?
They're hip, young, and having kids.
Yeah, well, we talk about trying to have daycares with.
you don't have to be young to
mass
be hip.
Businesses are.
I didn't say
The
that you
next,
have to be.
the next
You
two,
misinterpreted.
You just have to work harder at it.
Takes a lot more energy.
I'm hip and it don't take-
the next two I'm going to
First time
lump
I've
together and give a little explanation because this took a lot of discussion at Planning Commission. The difference between convenience store, which is not dispensing gas, and a gas station, which is dispensing gas. The idea was that convenience stores could be anywhere in any of the districts. However, dispensing gas would be outside of those areas. So Shiloh Road and the Corning Industrial is where the dispensing of gas was put. Again, we're trying to not be auto-centric within those, within the Dale Summit area, but it still provides for those from the
Corner
major
store.
arteries.
Corner store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bodega.
Bodega, that's what I was thinking.
All right, so we're good with the way those are listed. Eating and drinking establishments across the board. Markets. We weren't entirely sure about the difference between a permanent market and a temporary market, other than maybe a farmer's market type thing versus a grocery store market. So those were allowed in all the districts except Corning, because at the time Corning wasn't going to have anything besides industrial.
Now there's gonna be
Be
people
allowed
living
there,
there.
But it's hip
The
now.
hip people want markets.
So now we're putting,
Well, I think
That actually might be a cool spot for the farmer's
Your
market.
Shiloh,
Yeah.
You're basically
Absolutely.
going to
Yeah.
end up with the Shiloh uses
Yeah.
and,
Plenty of
Okay.
asphalt available.
Yeah.
Mike, scroll up.
oh, geez, sorry.
Or flea markets.
I'm hoping someone
professional
goes away with
services.
this.
Before we leave
In the
market,
Ideally.
Yeah.
if we're gonna do that, do we even have to differentiate between it and retail?
No, we don't.
maybe
Between
consider,
what? Between market and retail? Is that what
Because the
you're
only
talking?
Yeah,
difference there was
Between a
that market
market
was
and
limited.
retail, if we're gonna have it across all, retail's allowed across all, Do we need to differentiate
I
from
think
a
it's
market
good
to a
to,
retail?
I think it's good to differentiate just because, kind of like how, I'm making an analogy. How Eric wanted to pull out sidewalks in the budget and the CIP and have its own separate section instead of it being categorized in that big section. It just highlights it. It makes people think about it. It puts it in the zeitgeist. And so I like that it's differentiated because a market area is different than a retail shop. Or even think about the farmer's market in Lancaster that's winter, it's a building, but, I don't know, it just makes, I think
It's a flea market.
it could potentially give flavor.
It's a flea market,
In a use
not a
table.
farmer's market.
For imagination.
But that's what
For
we're-
people like Adam who
People
struggle
don't
with
have any
imagination.
imagination.
I'm
They go to the
joking.
use
I'm
table to
joking.
get that, okay. Now,
I think Tracy said it too. Flea market, I think, was one of the things we had talked
you,
about.
oh,
being
okay.
one of
I was
those
just
type
gonna
of
say,
markets.
or agribusiness, it goes more to an agribusiness, if that was, but if you're talking flea market, then,
And flea
but,
markets can be
I
hip.
mean,
They are very hip, where I used to live.
but, I mean, I'm looking at this
They
as Mark's
can.
standpoint too. Mark doesn't have,
Reuse?
yep, they're selling stuff retail.
Yeah.
I'm sustainability, so I'm always.
Simple
thinking-
was always better.
That's where I was going with it is,
Gotcha.
are they
Not
selling
always,
stuff
but
retail?
nothing's always.
Well, this is gonna boil down to our definitions, and when we
Yeah.
talk about retail, we're gonna have to have a string of additional elements to what we mean when we say retail, that's all.
Sale of goods,
And we can do that.
that's not gas.
Sale of goods.
not gas.
That's not gas.
Yeah,
Or
right?
adults or.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
So one way or another, we will call out markets, either under retail
Yeah, we
as
can
one
look at it,
defined.
maybe
yeah.
there's some different terminology to use that differentiates those.
And office uses?
Yeah, office uses across the board.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Self-storage, we had limited to Shiloh Road and Corning because it fit more in those lot sizes and uses. Movie theater, we put anywhere except for mixed neighborhood.
I have a question on self-storage. Do we want to include it in Shiloh Road? Or limit it to Corning only?
Well, seeing
I mean,
what's happening out there right now and what is leaving out there right now, which has kind of been a interesting mix of uses in the corridor. I would probably say no. We
I'm just
wouldn't
thinking of
want it
character.
there.
Right.
One of the other things, and again, this gets to my problem with imagination. We know that, for example, we know that there is a desire to do some self-storage actually at
Corning.
The Superfund.
the
Or the
Superfund site. And which has kind of spurred the whole conversation that we had quite recently. So that's a great place to do that kind of thing.
And I mean, Shiloh is where people are coming in. It's the gateway to the region, right? So if we limit the self-storage to Corning, that might give other people an opportunity. So, any objections?
No.
I think you make a
Fine.
good point.
Great. Indoor recreation is across the board.
Well, there's a change. Right, Mark?
Yes.
Then we get into civic. There, and again, the reason that most of these are listed as conditional use is not so much to restrict them as to give them the ability to be more
Special.
special, to be more special
More
than the others. So there's a section that's in the code that talks about, specifically about civic buildings.
This gets back to that earlier conversation we had about, okay, how does this work in a conditional use? What are reasonable conditions? But yeah, this was rooted in scale. They don't meet, the traditional civic use and some of the other uses listed below wouldn't meet within the lot standards that we just talked about. So how do you do that under a conditional use? And that would be a procedural thing we would have to talk through.
I have something on this one.
if Corning ends up being hip and everybody wants to live there, then they're gonna need schools.
Possibly, but if you're looking at the entirety of Dale Summit in size-wise, you're probably looking at one additional school for each section within that area. And so at the time, discussion with Planning Commission was that you'd probably be more this direction, within Dale Summit for those schools and less in that industrial area.
Yeah, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that it is impossible to predict, to accurately predict where you're gonna need schools or where you're gonna need more classrooms in a school. And so, and when I was on school board, we tried really hard and hired expert consultants, and we still got it wrong. So, hence the Mount Nittany expansion. So that's why I think that saying you cannot have a school here, that doesn't sit right with me.
Just leave it as a conditional use in that district. Is comfortable with that?
Yep.
One thing I was going to say some time back, and it seems to keep coming up over and over, just bear in mind, and we've gone through this with most of the council many times, this is a fluid document. This isn't it's written, it is over and done, and it will not change. But bear in mind, it's always easier to add uses and increase abilities to things than it is to take them away. My thought on most of this, we should probably lean on the conservative side because it's much easier to open it up than it is to close the box once. That's just a personal opinion, but bear that in mind through any of these discussions.
I think it provides the ability to imagine.
Right.
By making it more flexible and not prohibiting things from occurring, which, as I understand it, is what the whole goal is here. So really trying to encourage imagination, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, except for there are certain things, no, we don't want that.
Right.
Or,
Right.
and everything.
Yeah.
But a school isn't necessarily.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, it depends if you live. What's the one neighborhood behind Westerly? But no, we live by the mantra, it's easier to lighten up than to tighten up. And it's the same kind of thing, but your point is spot on as well, is we can't. And so then when we look at the, the traffic that, it's like a low impact business or whatever. Schools are pretty impactful.
If I could, once we added people and we left,
Yep.
we left the barn door open
Yep.
to all of this. But I'm going to go back to what I said, the first time we looked at this. My first thought was, oh boy, religious assemblies, for all intents and purposes, aren't any different than schools anymore. They're 7-day-a-week operations that generate traffic 7 days a week into the night. So I don't see any reason why they should have symbols in any of those columns that are any different than the rest of the things that are exactly like them.
Meaning make those conditional.
Conditional use.
Yeah, I mean,
That makes sense to me.
That's
I
fair.
mean, we think about the challenges that we've had over the years with the issues resulting from religious assemblies being 7-day-a-week operations and holding giant events and creating traffic. And, we went so far as to even consider revisiting what zoning districts they were allowed in. But here's a chance to get it right from the start.
So it sounds like there's general favoring, making everything conditional use and available in all the zones or districts, with the exception of a school, college, or university in mixed neighborhood? Am I hearing that?
Yeah, I actually would make an argument that the high school could be pulled out of,
The mixed neighborhood?
yeah,
Yeah,
School high,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, considering we have one public high school. Yeah.
we're probably not limiting anything there by pulling it out.
Okay.
Taxpayers don't want to pay for it.
Right.
The only
We already know that. They voted on that
And this
a
isn't-
while
yeah.
back.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just going to scale, the elementary and middle school, that'd be pretty cool. I'm living here,
That'd be
walk
very
my, yeah. Hip place,
Yeah.
all that.
Walkable,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
people
yeah.
want, yep.
That's why we
Yeah.
bought our house in Fieldstone. Not because my kids are walking there, but if and when we sell, it'll sell quickly because
Yes,
people can walk to the grammar
absolutely.
school and the middle
That's
school.
what people
It was a
want.
big point, yeah. So, all right, well, it sounds like conditional use for everything in every zone except the high school and the school, college, or university in the mixed neighborhood.
Okay. Fire, police, ambulance, across the board. Open space and recreation. It's generally everywhere. You'll see the band shell and open air was conditional just because of the location of it in a neighborhood setting, so you would likely want to set some conditions in terms of timing and things. Given that you changed Corning industrial, we can add that into that section. You will notice the only other difference is a hole under conservation areas in the mixed core,
Yeah.
and that's because you're not, the idea is not to, that you're really trying to conserve land within the mixed core. That's your highest density area. And so when they're talking about the conservation areas, it's in here, you know, in that, you're talking about a larger swath of area for conservation, and that doesn't really fit the purpose of the mixed core area. You would want your conservation areas to be in the less dense areas. That's the rationale there.
Then your special districts are mixed core underlying.
Right.
So we want to have conservation districts in the special districts.
But they're in there now.
Yeah, they're shown as a use by right, but
Oh, yeah.
just thinking out loud, that's your underlying, as those were identified as mixed core areas, if that applies, so.
What's the definition of conservation area and what's the minimum square footage of a conservation area?
Is that in the draft
Yeah, we probably
code?
have to open it up for open space.
8 acre minimum,
8 acres?
yeah. That's a conservation park. That's really all that they have listed there under.
No, if it's 8 acres, that answers my question, because I used to be on Parks Authority, and I know that there are like the smallest, lots of places claim to have the smallest park in the world, but you know, they're this big. And so I just wanted to make sure that early, if somebody wanted, you know, to preserve a butterfly garden to attract, you know, pollinators.
Yeah,
So,
they're-
but that's totally different than
Yeah,
8 acres.
This is
So,
big scale.
just
Yeah,
wanted
they
to
have,
ask.
there's pocket parks on here that's, you know, a maximum of 1.5 acres, you know, so there's a lot
Yep.
of smaller options that
Okay.
would fit within that mixed core area.
Perfect.
So Mike, are you proposing to take the conservation areas out of the special district?
Kind of a standing question at this point.
Okay.
You know, because we have it not shown in core, and those three are attached to the core district, does it make sense to be consistent there? Or, you know, the one that kind of jumps out in my mind is you're probably not going to get conservation area in the Nittany Mall.
Right.
You're probably, well, I can't even say with Corning, but Shiloh and Corning, you know, you've got space.
Right.
So it's, you know, I could go either way. I just was curious kind of where council would fall on that.
If there's space, I wouldn't want to prohibit that if somehow that's what could naturally, organically be developed.
Would we want to do that as conditional use in those special districts?
That'd be one way to do it.
Conservation in the special districts, but under conditional use?
Could I back to band shells and open area? I almost think those all have to be conditional
Conditional
use. I mean, we got to hear about pickleball and
Yep.
Well,
concerns with
and
life.
we've added residential to those
Yeah,
special
there's people
districts.
there.
And so,
Fair comment.
That's a good point.
it's good you picked that up.
So conservation easements is conditional uses. And-
But Rich is also suggesting that ban shells be conditional across
Yes,
the board.
that made sense.
Yep.
But not conservation area in the Nittany Mall
Right,
special
that one I
district.
think we just get rid of.
Community gardens.
Agricultural processing and packaging was put in Corning for the industrial side. Farming was left as Shiloh, since that's the only farmland left in the Dale Summit, though it's
Where is the Shuey Farm?
Shiloh.
Is that in
It's out
Shiloh?
Benner Pike. Yeah,
Is that considered
it's
part
in
of the Shiloh corridor?
Well, no, it's actually along the Benner Pike
Right,
corridor.
yeah, exactly.
It's across from the center care.
Oh, well, I know where it is, but
Oh,
what,
I'm
what,
sorry.
no, I know where Felix's
Where would
farm
it
is,
fall
but
under
where does it
farm-based?
fall? And should we make an allowance for that in here, or it's out, is it out, it's not outside of the Dale Summit area?
No.
So what district does it fall into?
That's in the mixed core, because it's right along that Benner Pike corridor.
I don't know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
already a farm, so we should probably add it in there,
But
yeah?
There can be a non-conforming.
Right, it would be
Okay.
non-conforming.
All right.
So forestry is everywhere?
Yeah, that I think is as much a nod to state law as it is anything else.
Okay.
If there are, yeah, we are, as a municipality, not allowed to preclude logging. And I think if that's what we're talking about here, then this makes sense.
I believe that was.
Yeah.
No, just it looks weird to
It
it.
does.
Because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like, we're gonna have forestry happening in a downtown area.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the processing and packaging. I'm assuming we're talking about food processing and packaging, are we not?
I believe that's the intent there.
Okay, because I think it's important to call out the food part of that.
Yeah, that
Because,
wasn't obvious to me.
yeah, because theoretically, you could have,
I think when the discussion was happening with PC was talking about feed mill processing, which you wouldn't necessarily have in the middle of any of the other districts, but
Right.
if you want to define it as food and beverage processing, like your brewer,
yeah, well,
then those.
Does that become a separate line?
would be, I'm sure you would consider elsewhere besides just the Corning Industrial.
So do we need to add a separate, like one is,
maybe we should just
Retail.
have a separate brewery line,
There was a separate,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because that's hip.
there was a
And it
separate,
makes people imagine.
That's right.
there was something separate that PC had removed, and I can't remember what it was. It was like wine
Yeah, wine.
Wine tasting.
tasting and something, and then that just fell under retail.
Or eating and drinking establishments, or,
I think light industrial was also what they were considering. Right now, food and beverage would fall under light industrial in our current zoning, so that would just fall under light industrial, which is down
Okay.
in the next section.
Robin Hood Brewing wants to can and sell, that's a light industrial. It's already built in here.
Okay.
So we may need to add some words to processing packaging so that people who are doing food and beverage processing don't think that that's
Right.
the only place they
precluding
can do
them.
it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the commercial greenhouse, only in Shiloh and Corning. And I just got back from Annapolis today, and there's commercial greenhouses everywhere. Like small neighborhoods, and it fits well into sort of people who want to go to farmers markets and coffee shops and microbreweries. So that one, I
have to assume this is at scale.
Yeah.
Is that what we're referring to here? So similar to the conservation areas that were 8 acres, I'll bet you that's.
There's a size.
There's a threshold
They're
for
commercial
sizable,
okay.
as opposed to,
I think you're going back to a
Because maybe that
definitions
kind of
issue.
commercial greenhouse falls under retail. In a neighborhood, you could have a retail.
It's confusing because some of them are even called greenhouse,
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
But if the greenhouse is defined by size, then,
that
I
makes
think
sense.
that's a thing to flag is, we'll have to define a few of these a little better to get out of that uncertainty.
This had a lot of discussion at Planning Commission, and I believe, if I'm correct, it was just greenhouses. They changed this to commercial greenhouses, so it wouldn't preclude
The smaller,
Walmart from putting a greenhouse out and growing flowers and stuff to sell on a small scale.
Or the pop-ups that we
Yes.
have and those kinds of
what's her
things.
name, Patchwork Farms.
Patchwork.
Yes.
Yeah, yep, yep. What did we
Maybe.
decide there?
I was gonna say, maybe the distinction is growing greenhouse, because patchwork just sells, they don't grow there. I mean, they grow
Correct.
while it's there, hopefully they didn't die, but
So is that just falls under the retail category
that's
again?
kind of where I
Yeah.
was going.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, we also said commercial versus just growing or greenhouse,
Greenhouse.
because individuals could have, that you can have your own greenhouse on your property or something. This was to delineate that it's a much larger,
Large scale.
So we could
Growing
say large
agricultural
scale.
product for sale
At scale.
at scale.
Yeah. We'll put some
It's
language
a, yeah,
together
it's a
for that.
definition issue.
No other issues in that agricultural section? Okay, industrial, ground transportation, this is like your FedEx, UPS. So we limited those to Shiloh and Corning and,
The specials.
yeah. Do you think it belongs in the Nittany Mall Special District?
I don't, I mean, if it's the I mean,
Again, I go back to what's the definition of ground transportation? I mean,
FedEx, UPS.
right,
those-
but like there's a UPS store in
Amazon.
Hamilton Square and that's really great and everybody loves it. But
That
is
would be retail.
Retail.
that would be retail.
But that would be retail, okay.
Yeah. This is more the truck.
Yeah, and I
Gotcha.
guess, you
Well,
know,
it
if
just-
we're,
yeah,
if we're trying to
A hub,
encourage.
the UPS hub, like
Yeah.
it's on.
Distribution.
And if we make it an allowed use by right in the Nittany Mall, and somebody wants to put it there, that's gonna take up space that would have otherwise been used for a commercial or,
That's why, like, how we have a post office in the middle of downtown
yeah.
with trucks.
We may need to tweak some of that. Light industrial, light manufacturing was allowed everywhere, except PC did not want to allow it in the mixed neighborhood. This was where I believe staff and PC differed a little on that opinion, was that you could have light manufacturing in
In
the
your
mixed
own home.
neighborhood as well.
I would support it, yes.
In the mixed neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, to exclude it from there kind of defeats the purpose
Yeah,
of what we're trying to do.
yep.
Heavy industrial, as all the discussion, it's been limited to Corning.
And again, what's the definition of heavy industrial versus light industrial?
Heavy industrial, I believe, I don't know if we have the definition here, but it
Tractor
had more
trailers.
noxious noise, the
much
traffic
heavier
and
impact.
trucks, a heavier impact within the community versus light industrial, where you may not even know it's occurring within that area.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest distinction to make is heavy industrial requires the use of transporting raw products, typically
Materials.
by tractor trailers, whereas light industrial, those raw materials and even finished product are actually shipped via UPS, FedEx,
Actually, Corning
DHL.
could come in via rail.
or rail as well, right?
The Joint Rail Authority would love that suggestion.
Just invested a lot in the crossing on Struble Road. I assume they're not done, because that's a mess. My God.
You have to come down that very carefully.
What's that?
The grade, the drop.
They aren't done, aren't, I mean, they still have work to do, don't they?
I think they're.
Do we know? It's not really our project.
Well, it's not, that's the problem. We don't think that they're done.
I hope
We
they're not
believe-
done.
Well, they're
They think
done.
they're done.
Oh, no, they're not.
Well, I understand.
Oh, God,
I
no. They
understand.
got two lights and people are in between the lights and,
Well, that PennDOT's saying those lights have to stay the way they are.
oh, no, they got the one light that turns red before the one, so there's no
I-
need for the
yeah.
one at the bottom.
we understand.
A separate
that
meeting.
this-
Is that a new-
this-
is that a new agenda
This
item
is
on
a
a separate
PennDOT,
meeting?
this is, in my opinion, right now, where we're at, this is a PennDOT issue.
Oh, well, we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a hold of
most
PennDOT.
definitely.
Well, then, should we
I
put it
mean,
on as
I
a new
will
agenda
tell you
item?
that PennDOT kind of saw what was going on and they just kind of walked away.
Should we put it on as a new agenda item?
No, I didn't mean, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah,
I
so I'm
shouldn't
just
even brought
asking,
it
should we
up.
move that to a meeting?
I'm really disappointed to hear they're not done, though. My
Well, we
God.
can, yeah,
Well, I
we
mean,
can
they
do
are
that.
not
We could
done.
add
Yeah,
that.
I think, I mean,
I don't know that
clearly.
there's been punch list yet, but the light issue is what they want.
Oh, it's a mess.
So we'll
We're
move that
not
to a
arguing.
new, so we'll move that to a new agenda item at a meeting coming up soon.
Yeah, because other people care about that too, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Citizens,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, plus the grade, I almost knocked my car out coming down.
Storage and distribution, again, that's like warehousing and
So that's kind of goes along with the,
ground transportation.
the self-storage units. Is that something we want to do in Shiloh or limit to Corning?
The only thing about Shiloh is the access to the
Yeah.
highway.
Chances are that issue is gonna become more of a question for Benner Township
Yes.
than it will for College
Okay.
Township. But,
Because of the rocky land?
well,
They'll have
simply
more-
because of the
Oh, the proximity, yeah, they've got that last bit
To the
before
interchange.
99, right, okay. So leave as is?
Mobility Hub, this was from conversations with CATA about connectivity of different modes of transportation. Particularly a place where a bus driver can get out and go to the bathroom and, you know, or you can transfer from your car to a bus, those type of things. So those were placed in the special districts, primarily, you know, Shiloh and Corning again being that external points of the township and the mall if it's going to be a, you know, a destination place to have that ability for transportation.
Kind of like park and ride too,
Yeah.
like in the cities.
Sure. Train station. We can
Yeah.
get a train station.
Yeah.
Put it on a JRA's list.
Commercial laundry, those were put on Shiloh and Corning. Again, we're talking large scale, commercial laundry where you've got chemicals and smells and all of those things. So
Not like
those-
a neighborhood laundromat.
Not a neighborhood laundromat, yeah. And in fact,
Or even a dry cleaner.
Yeah.
we had laundromat, but it had been taken off just for, because it fell under retail or in those uses, so. And then warehousing, again, talking about those special districts. So there's a little bit of overlap in some of the terminology, but those were kind of what was recommended from DPZ too in terms of terminology. So we kept as much of that as we could.
Maybe, I don't know whether it needs to be a separate line item or retail / service. I don't know what that, but service businesses are different than retail businesses.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to go back and revisit definitions, provide some additional clarifying criteria, perhaps to some of these uses. We want to be sure that people understand what we mean. And we want to take the ambiguity out of all of that. Because to be honest, that's the biggest part of Mark's job right now. You know, he deals with ambiguity every day, and he's empowered to make those determinations right now. So we want to give Mark less work to do, where we can.
So I have a question on the schedule. If we're pushing some of these things off, do we have sufficient meeting times scheduled as it is now to accommodate all that?
I think so. My initial opinion is yes.
Okay.
This was a heavy lift right here. I mean, the stuff we start getting into, absent parking and open space, that next meeting is probably going to be a heavy one. But yes, I think once we start getting into the later meetings, there's going to be room and flexibility to do things,
Great.
kind of the cleanup piece of this discussion.
Yeah, if we need more time, the sooner we know it, the better, so.
We have 3 more work sessions.
Yep, yeah, so I'm looking at the schedule right now, yeah. Okay.
This, quite honestly, I will tell you, Carrie and I had the discussion today about if we don't get through this tonight, how does it shift into the next work session?
Right.
You
got through it.
cross that hurdle.
You got enough from,
So.
okay.
Yeah. It's just some tweaking on our end for those items.
Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Just interesting sidelight, on the boroughs zoning rewrite, they currently don't have any use tables, and they're getting a whole bunch of use tables now as part of their rezoning. But perhaps because they're, maybe they have some definitions
Ah,
that
okay.
would be beneficial to us to look at. Because they're looking kind of cutting edge, imaginative kind of stuff too.
Yeah, but you're just not hip.
They're not hip.
Katie has something.
I have a couple things. Sorry.
I asked, is there anything for the good of the order? Don't
Yeah.
apologize. Go.
We need to reschedule the benefits ad hoc meeting, since that got canceled.
Okay.
Since you're
So
both
the
here.
two of us, we
Since
can
you're-
do that after we adjourn, I guess,
That's
so
fine.
that we don't
I
have to
just
keep
shut my
everybody here.
PC down.
We also need to decide on executive session for
An interview.
an interview, when that will occur.
Next week.
Potentially next week, so that needs to be decided on.
So that would be likely a 6:30 start
We have
prior
one
to
interview
next,
for Parks, right?
one interview.
For PC.
PC, I meant
I
PC.
have
Yeah,
not-
PC. No,
I-
PC, it was
Yeah,
PC.
and I have
Yeah,
not
yeah.
confirmed that.
Okay.
the
So
first-
tentatively 6:30 at
tentatively, but
Thursday?
I just wanted to see about availability
Can we do that?
before I confirm.
Okay.
And the meeting that, the lunch meeting that we were all invited to, I'd just like a little more clarification. Are we
Didn't I
really-
send, didn't you get my email
Yeah, but I mean,
or my text?
I understand that lunch will be provided, that part, but were we intentionally invited because it would be a really good thing for us, but we're not legally required, or we were just mistakenly added to the invite?
You were mistakenly added to the invite.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
'Cause if I keep
mean, you're
going-
welcome to come, but it's an MS4 training session. It's primarily for staff and primarily even for our public works and water crews who are out and about all over the township and they see this, that, or the other thing. What do they do? Who do they call? What's an issue, what's not an issue? That's what that training is. To see it once, it's interesting. We're required to do it every year.
But we're not.
You're not required to do it at all.
The safety training incorporated with that as well, to keep our insurance rates low.
Yes.
With our safety committee, and it's,
All right, so it really just
But
comes
there
down
is
to
lunch.
But there is lunch.
Would
And
anyone
just
like to
one
make?
more, one more thing, sorry.
Okay.
The Chambers State of the County, because I know some people do attend that each year, is September 23rd, so I would just need to know if anyone would like to attend.
I'll attend.
We'll remind you.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there.
Meeting at night.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order one last time?
Thank you for your work.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion? Do we have to?
Move to
Are we
adjourn.
adjourned? We're adjourned.
All right.
We-
Well
we-
done, well done.
We must huddle over, shut over.